Local news about local people, live from Ball State Unified Media. You're watching NewsLink Indiana.
Good morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Brooke Falrod.
And I'm Joe Sawicki.
Severe weather is in play for East Central Indiana. The National Weather Service has issued a tornado watch for the entire NewsLink Indiana viewing area until noon today.
We are here to give you special coverage and provide the information you need to know. Now, Brooke, that includes all 8 of our counties in our viewing area. And after all the storms yesterday, it's crazy that now we're just starting to experience this crazy weather in our area now.
Yes, and we were unsure this morning if we were going to see any tornado watch or warning. Right now it is just a watch, but we were waiting to see what was going to happen. And about an hour ago is when they issued that watch.
Yeah, we had our eye on it for a couple hours. They put out something called a mesoscale discussion, which is saying like there's a possibility of a watch, and then they issued that watch. And now those storms are really starting to pick up on the western part of the state.
Yeah, I know last night we saw a lot of storms across the central U.S., but a lot in like Illinois and the border on Illinois, Indiana. Pretty crazy stuff, and I hope that everyone was okay.
Me too, but let's take it locally. So let's take it outside to Cooper Science right now, where you see the sun's starting to rise right now, but lots of clouds out there as we go throughout the day at Cooper Science, and that's going to be all throughout the day as we go on. But like I said, that tornado watch is going to be in effect until noon today. So that includes all 8 of our counties in the NewsLink Indiana viewing area, as well as the city of Indianapolis and the southern half of the state of Indiana. Now let's take a look at this radar, because there is a lot going on here. As you can see, these storms are pushing their way into the state of Indiana, starting to get into the northern half of our viewing area, but there are multiple severe thunderstorm warnings attached to this right now, including Terre Haute and other parts of western Indiana. Now that tornado watch, like I talked about, we're seeing hail that can be up to 1 inch in diameter, wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour, and again, the possibility of a tornado here and there. There's been no tornado warnings that are currently in effect right now, but again, we are keeping an eye on that. Let's take it in closer into our viewing area. You'll see the tornado watch box, as well as the severe thunderstorm warning starting to make its way into Metro Indianapolis. So this is going to cause some issues for the morning commute today. So if you're sitting at home right now thinking, I have lots of time to get to work, you might want to leave now because this rain is going to cause issues, especially with the heavy thunder and lightning and the possibility of a hail as well. But that storms, the red is intensity rain, and that is starting to move especially into Grant County, affecting Marion, Gas City, and then in Muncie, we're going to expect these stronger storms within the next hour or 2. No tornado warnings yet, thankfully, but we are going to keep our eye on that. And here it is paused. Again, lots of heavy rain up to our north in Kokomo and Marion. And this is going to cause a flooding threat as well. We had a storm move through around 5 a.m. today here in Muncie, and the roads were already getting pretty flooded as we came into the studio today. So that was heavy downpours for even just 10 minutes. So this rain could cause flooding pretty easily, especially in areas without good drainage. Now let's take a look at that precision cast and track out this rain. You'll see 8 a.m. that it's going to be in it throughout the western half of our viewing area. It's going to continue to really pick up as we get to 9 a.m. That's where we're going to see our heaviest rainfall. Our tornado chances, I would say, are going to be between 8 and 9. They're not great, but the chance is there. So we'll keep our eye on that. And that heavier rain is going to get here by 9 a.m. Lots of thunder and lightning are going to be included with this one. So again, if you are going to be on your way to work or taking the kids to school, just take precaution and take extra time on the roads. Typically, when you see rain, the roads get slick, so just be careful when you are traveling because you don't want to get into any kind of accident and force emergency personnel to get back onto the road. But anyway, like I said, lots of rain throughout the area as we go throughout the morning. That heavier rain is going to push out around 11 a.m. So this rain is going to last throughout the morning, and then when we get to the lunch hour, it's going to be a little brief reprieve before another band of heavy showers begins to move through in the afternoon hours before we finally say goodbye to these thunderstorms as we go throughout the evening. Now, this is going to bring down a big cool down as we go throughout the next few days, and I'll cover that later on in the show. Now, this is all part of this severe threat that we covered yesterday. So yesterday, the northern half of Indiana, especially the Chicago area, northwest Indiana, they had a moderate risk of severe weather. So that was a 4 out of 5. So that caused some tornadoes to be in northwest Indiana. But right now we are in Muncie, and they have us in a slight risk, which is a level 2 out of 5 for most of our viewing area. And then Grant County is in that marginal, which is a 1 out of 5. Now this slight risk means we see the chance of hail a possible tornado, and heavy rain and winds that can be up to 70 miles per hour. So those winds are going to be very damaging. That's our main threat as we go throughout the day. Here is that damaging wind threat. We're here right in 15%. The southern half of our viewing area is in that 30% chance of damaging winds. So keep your eye on that. That can easily snap trees and overall just cause some damage to things as we go throughout the day. Now, I'm going to take a look at that SPC outlook and explain just kind of what all that means in this form. Like I said, slight risk, so scattered severe storms are possible. Some wind damage, 1 or 2 tornadoes, but as we move up the risk categories, of course, things are going to intensify. But overall, that slight risk, so we're just going to keep our eye on that as we go throughout the day. Now, here are some tornado safety tips that might be helpful in case we do see a warning in the near future. You're going to want to make sure you go to the lowest level or most interior room of your home. Typically, that would be like a pantry, closet, bathroom, something like that. A good tip is if you don't have a basement, you can go into a bathtub and you can like take a mattress, put it over you, and that should attempt to shield you from a tornado. If you can't lift your mattress, pillows work as well. Just protect your head from any debris that might potentially get into your house if there is a tornado on the ground. You definitely want to stay away from trees and power lines as we go throughout the day, because if any of those fall, we could be loose wiring and that could cause electrical issues, especially if there is standing water. So make sure you stay away from those. You don't want to go under any overpasses. That is a myth. Overpasses are one of the least safe places to be in the event of a tornado because the winds, they funnel through that overpass. So they actually get a lot stronger as you go under that overpass. So it's not safe there at all. So make sure if there is a tornado and you are on the road, the best bet is to either make sure you can get away from the tornado and have a safety route, or pull off to the side and not be under an overpass. And finally, shelter in place until that tornado warning has ended and the time has passed. You don't want to go outside during a tornado warning, in short. It's going to be very dangerous. Again, no tornado warnings right now, but we are keeping our eye on that. So I'll keep you posted as we go throughout the rest of the show. Brooke, back to you at the desk.
Thank you so much, Joe. Dangerous storms with tornadoes and giant hail tore across the central U.S. last night into this morning. With these storms pushing east early into today, the main concern is now flash flooding and damaging winds. Reed Binion reports.
There it is, right there. This is right here, River Road area.
A massive tornado ripping through the Kankakee, Illinois area Tuesday evening.
Everybody, get in, get downstairs. If you're out here, stay safe. People in their cars are crazy. I'm going downstairs now. Hi, guys.
Part of a widespread outbreak of severe weather tracking across the central U.S. overnight Tuesday into Wednesday. Before that tornado in Kankakee, the same tornadic supercell produced a twister near Pontiac, Illinois. The supercell moved east across towns from central Illinois through northern Indiana.
We have an area that a lot of homes and businesses have been hit. Power lines are down everywhere. Injuries so far have been reported as being minor injuries, but the home damage is pretty significant.
The severe weather also included hail, some of it reportedly more than 5 inches in diameter in Illinois, which could set a new state record. Texas also seeing large hail, some of it reportedly baseball-sized. The Lone Star State also seeing at least 1 tornado and tens of thousands of power outages. I'm Reed Binion reporting.
The storm damage from Kankakee extended for miles as a damaging storm cell produced multiple tornadoes. NewsLink Indiana weather forecaster Orion Ark is live in studio with his own photos and videos of the storm. Orion?
Thank you, Brooke. Yeah, we had those severe thunderstorms roll through that had some tornadoes form in them. They formed in Illinois and made their way across northern Indiana. Now, this is footage I took right before the storm, or right after the storm went through Kankakee, Illinois. Now you see this wall cloud right here forming, you see all this lightning, and when the camera pans, you do see all this precipitation. You see the front edge of that rain right there, and then as it pans over here in a second, there will be a mass of rain that you can just tell that tornado behind that is all rain wrapped. And now unfortunately that tornado in Kankakee was fatal, and there were some fatalities there. Now this is of the same storm. A little bit later, you see all this lightning there off in the distance, that cloud to cloud lightning, and there it is, that rain that's wrapping completely around that tornado. And you can even see in the footage the wheat blowing really quickly. Now that's because that inflow, that wind that was blowing in and feeding that tornado, making it even stronger. Now this is footage of all that cloud to cloud lightning. It just rapid fire. The skies were lit up for multiple minutes in a row. And this is a picture of the radar at that exact time. You can see the hook on the reflectivity, that's all that rain, and wrapping around right there. And you can see the velocity here. Now the green is moving towards the radar, and the red is wind moving away from the radar. And when they touch like that, that's not good. That means there's that rotation, and you see tornadoes could form from that. Now it was pretty strong. You see this bar right here labeling the intensity. You see blue pretty strong moving towards the radar, and then that lighter color really strong moving away from the radar. This next video is of the Lake Village tornado when it was going through. Now, it was a massive wedge. Now, this was particularly dangerous because it was at night and you can't really see that. Now, the only thing they could really rely on for any kind of warning was that lightning. You see the lightning kind of flash and light up that back side, and you can see that rain, very faint edge right there, signaling that it is rain wrapped, and it was extremely dangerous because of that darkness, and you could not see it coming. And especially at that time of night, people were probably already starting to head to bed, not even really aware that they had that storm moving in towards them. Now this next video is the footage of the tornado that went right north of Knox, Indiana. Now I know it caused some pretty severe damage, and if you look here in the very beginning, you see those blue flashes. Those are power flashes where the wind will destroy these transformers and electricity boxes and stuff like that to make these flashes of bright blue light that signifies that it is going through a populated area and destroying all that infrastructure. And you see those bright blue flashes even behind that tornado. Now this is going to be a picture of hail that was found right before the first tornado hit in Pontiac, Illinois. Now that is about ping pong sized. Now there were reports of even bigger across the state and in that storm throughout the days. Now this is just a couple that were found in a field. You can see that is particularly big. That's about golf ball size. You can see those cracks, and they're almost like little spikes. Now those spikes were probably bigger, but as they fell, they started to melt and get into more of a smaller ball. So luckily they weren't as big as they fell. Now there is one more picture that is particularly amazing, but rather dangerous too. This footage, or this picture of the side mirror of a car showing the stovepipe tornado that formed in Illinois right as it formed, and it was particularly dangerous. And you see it was very condensed, very tight, and it was just very strong tornado with a lot of strong winds. Now it wasn't rain wrapped, which was better for the safety of some people so you could really see it. Now that is all I have for right now. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you, Orion. Yeah, those storms yesterday, they were quite harrowing to see.
Yes, I know. I have family out there in the Roselawn area, Lake Village, Kankakee, that it was about 50 miles that storm still kind of traveled up and down off the ground.
Mm-hmm. That storm. So it did lift tornadoes. Like it would drop a tornado and then it would lift back up over that track. But that storm, it tracked from Illinois all the way through the South Bend area into even like the very southern Michigan. It went on for a very long time.
And it got to a catastrophic kind of level. We were pretty worried about that last night.
Yeah, there at one point when it got to Knox, Indiana, it was called a tornado emergency because there was just so much. We call it correlation coefficient, which is a radar term that means it basically measures debris in the air. And there was a debris that measured like 2.4 miles in diameter, which is just a huge area of debris. So when you see that and you see these other things on radar, you just definitely take note of it, especially as it's approaching populated areas.
Of course, especially with it being South Bend, a bigger city, any city being hit, but with such a big city being populated, I know the weather people were on the desk at WNDU. It's pretty hectic, and I hope everyone's okay. Even looking at the photos that Orion showed, and what we're going to take a look at in a little bit, is the leaves were taken off the trees, a lot of damage we're seeing. Was it true? I saw something about possibly search and rescue being sent out to some places?
Yeah, so search and rescue is being conducted in Lake Village, Indiana, which is where one of the larger tornadoes happened yesterday. as we saw, there were no confirmed casualties and fatalities last night, but we do have sad news. It was just reported from the Newton County coroner that there were 2 fatalities in Lake Village, Indiana, as part of this storm. So the weather was definitely bad last night, as we well know.
Yeah.
But if there's any good news about the severe weather today, is that it's happening during the daytime. Because
Yes.
nighttime storms are always a lot more scary because you can't see them.
Yes, it's a really big visibility hazard. And I mean, it was already a pretty big catastrophe level that it was being described as you were identifying to me last night. And the fact that you can't see it and on top of that level of hazard is really concerning. I'm really glad that most of the people are okay, and my heart goes out to those who have lost loved ones.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we just take a look at Lake Village, Indiana, you'll see some of that damage from yesterday. Emergency crews on the scene throughout the evening after that tornado moved through, with the 2 confirmed fatalities from the Newton County coroner, sadly, as we go throughout the day, and all those emergency crews. We don't have a rating on this tornado yet, but it is part of that same cell that dropped a tornado in Kankakee, Illinois, Wheatfield, Indiana, Roselawn, Indiana, Knox, Indiana, before it lifted right as it was getting into the South Bend area, and continued as a severe thunderstorm all the way to the Indiana-Michigan border. So that storm tracked on for a long time, but our hearts certainly go out to those affected by this storm in Lake Village. But as we take a look closer at home, let's see that radar right now, and it's definitely picking up as we go throughout the morning. That rain continuing to go into the Indiana, making its way now firmly into western Indiana. That severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for Terre Haute and some of the western portions of the state. That's going to include wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour, and there's hail being reported up to 1 inch in diameter already. So definitely nowhere near the large hail that happened yesterday in the storms to our north, but still, hail is nothing to ignore because it can cause some damage to trees, windows, windshields, anything of the sort. But that rain is tracking in to the state of Indiana and really starting to affect our viewing area. We hear a bit of rain outside the studio right now as I'm here talking to you. But currently, like I said, this radar, it's starting to pick up, and here's some heavier rain bands behind the main frontal line of storms, some heavier rain that is going to be affecting us as we go throughout the morning. So let's take a look closer in our area. And again, that tornado watch still in effect until noon today. So we might be seeing the possibility of those tornadoes, wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour, which can be damaging, hail up to 1.5 inches in diameter, and overall it's just going to be a pretty tricky situation as you go throughout the morning. Like I said earlier, if you're going to travel to work or take the kids to school, take precaution when you head out on the roads because they're not going to be great right now, especially if you are traveling at high speeds on the highway. Visibility is going to be very low as we go throughout the morning, especially if this rain is downpour conditions. So you'll want to keep those windshield wipers at the maximum because that rain is just going to be pretty difficult to see, especially because the sun is rising, but it's not fully risen yet, so it could still be dark in some places. So definitely just take note of that as you are heading out the door. We'll pause the radar and you'll see just these darker colors to our north in Marion and Kokomo, these heavier rains. That's going to be rainfall rates that are pretty high that, like I said, will cause some localized flooding, especially in areas with poor drainage. And overall, if the rain just accumulates super fast, just not enough time for the rain to go anywhere. Now, as that precision cast, I'll track it out again for you. Here it is at 8 a.m. That rain's going to start making its way into Muncie and affecting us in Anderson County, in Anderson and Madison County. The heavier rain is going to really push in between 8 and 9 o'clock. So between those times, we'll start seeing those really downpour conditions. Now the rain's going to start pick up significantly. Look at these dark reds here in Delaware County and Henry County to our south. So that's going to be rainfall rates that are really high. So take precaution about that because, like I said, poor drainage could result in easy flooding. We had just a 10-minute downpour earlier this morning, and that was causing difficulties here on the Ball State campus, which has pretty good drainage. So especially if you are in areas where sewers might be blocked by debris or something, take precaution on that. Do not drive through flooded areas. Remember the phrase, turn around, don't drown. There's always a way to get around floodwater. It's not worth driving your car into it especially if you get stuck, because then if you get stuck in the water, you're not going to make it to work. So just don't risk it, especially if areas are flooded. But so that heavy rain is going to be affecting our viewing area, especially between 8, 9 into 10 o'clock. That's going to start to make its way out as we go into the latter half of the morning. Here it is around lunchtime, 11 a.m., a brief reprieve from the rain. So a little pause there for hopefully some water to drain and overall get out of our area. But we do have a second round of rain that's going to be in our area in the afternoon. It won't be as significant as this first half of rain, but overall rainfall amount is still going to be pretty significant. From like 2 to 5 o'clock, we see these rainfall rates still be downpour conditions at times. But that rain's going to move out, and we're going to see just cloudy conditions as we go into this evening. 10 p.m. tonight, that rain is gone and just cloudy skies. So the rain, once that moves out, our severe threat is over. Our severe threat's going to be done by dinner time tonight. But we do have another thing we're tracking. Those temperatures, they're going to start dropping back to more seasonal because they've been well above average recently. But once this cold front makes its way through, our temperatures are going to drop. So get those coats back out. They're not going to be super cold. That'll be for next week. But in the meantime, definitely just keep those light jackets handy because these temperatures are going to drop. Like I said earlier, this is all part of the severe system that was in place for yesterday and today as well. Today is not as significant as yesterday, but overall it is still something to take note of because we are in the slight risk, which is a 2 out of 5 from the Storm Prediction Center, which basically means hail is possible, heavy rain, wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour, and the chance of tornadoes, which is why we are in this tornado watch. So that is including most of our viewing area, including Muncie and Richmond. Marion and Grant County is in that marginal, which is 1 out of 5. But those Michigan tornadoes happen in a marginal risk. So you can never rule anything out, even if it's just a 1 out of 5 or a 2 out of 5. It might not be as significant as one of these higher risk days, but just because it's a low risk, you cannot rule anything out. I mean, we're in a slight risk right now with a tornado watch, so definitely something to keep an eye on. Our main threat for today, along with those heavy rain, is those heavy winds. So let's take a look at that here. In Muncie, we are in this 15% chance of damaging winds. So that could be wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour. That could easily snap trees and overall just cause issues as we go throughout the day, because those winds are going to continue even after the rain's done. That's the one thing we're going to be keeping our eye on, are these heavy winds. But overall, for the southernmost portions of our area, including Richmond, they're at a 30% chance of damaging winds. So definitely keep your eye out on that. Definitely don't want to do your hair today because those wind gusts are going to be pretty significant. So like I said, damaging winds throughout the day, all throughout the day and into the evening. So those severe categories, like I talked about, widespread severe weather for the highest risk, but we're just going to move it down a notch to level 2, which is a couple tornadoes, damaging winds, hail, and some heavy rainfall. But I'm going to have more details on the severe threat and everything you need to know after this break.
Everyone has a ritual, that small thing to keep us focused.
A habit we never skip, to clear our minds and elevate our performance.
But what do you do to keep your head in the game? To drown out the self-doubt and support your mental health. Because being your best isn't just about taking care of your body.
It's about taking care of your mental health. Discover the resources that you need to keep your mind focused and your mental health a priority.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Welcome back. The time is 8:09 and we are taking a look at the Performing Arts Center.
So as you're seeing as the sun rises, lots of clouds throughout the area. You can see a little bit of rain on that camera. So again, that rain is starting to make its way into our area. So Brooke, I was talking about that drive as we came into the studio today. We get like really downpour conditions as we went throughout the morning.
Yeah, and this is my first time having to wear a raincoat. It was downpouring so bad that they were just running off me when I sat in my car. All the water just went onto the car seat. It was pretty insane. And by the time I pulled into the parking lot, the rain was ceased.
I know. So this one little storm cell moved through so fast. I walked out of my house to arrive here, and it was just a drizzle. And then as I'm walking by my car, it sounds like what was like a car driving by. And I'm like, well, I don't see any cars, so what's going on? And all of a sudden it just started pouring. And I'm like, oh, I gotta run because I can't get this suit ruined.
Of course.
But it's just like, it shows how fast things can change with these storm cells, because you can go from nothing to everything so quickly.
Yes, and especially when we were heading into the newsroom this morning, it was so dark outside, and on my drive here, the sky would just light up and it would just be like daylight outside, kind of what you saw on that Skype cam with lighting.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty intense, and like you said before you started your weather, we could hear the rain on the windows. It sounds like it's stopped now. It's kind of coming in and out, it seems like.
Yeah, very much touch and go with the rain here. So let's take another look outside the Cooper Science sky cam and look at those clouds. It is quite a sight to see. Those are some beautiful low-level clouds as we take a look over Cooper Science at the Ball State campus. And overall, those clouds are going to be a little interesting as we go throughout the next few hours. That tornado watch is in effect until noon. So again, we are keeping our eye on this. This is for the entire NewsLink Indiana viewing area, and we have our eye on this tornado watch for a couple tornadoes, heavy rain, heavy winds up to 70 miles per hour, and hail that can be up to 1.5 inches in diameter, which can certainly be damaging as we go throughout the next few hours. That radar, let's take another look at this radar because it just keeps on changing. Still a lot of heavy rain throughout the state of Indiana, now starting to really make its way into the Indianapolis metro area. So I would say it'll be in Muncie within the next hour or so, but that heavy rain is making its way across the state. Heavier rain behind it, so after that initial line of rain and thunderstorms are over, there's still more, so don't let your guard down even if it just stops raining for a little bit, because there is some more rain behind it, not just for the portions of Indiana down to our south, but for us in Muncie as well. The northern half of our viewing area is already experiencing some of those thunderstorms. So let's take a look closer to home with that radar. We have a severe thunderstorm warning that was just issued to our west, about to be into our viewing area. That's going to be some strong storms there, winds up to 60 miles per hour, hail up to 1 inch in diameter, and heavy rain. So we are keeping our eye on these severe thunderstorm warnings as we go throughout the day, all associated with this tornado watch, which is again going to go until noon. But heavy rain all throughout the viewing area. As you go from green to red, that means you go from lighter to heavier rainfall rates, and that red is certainly prominent throughout the Indiana right now, again, especially where those severe thunderstorm warnings are to our south, starting to now make their way into our viewing area. So expect for there to be some rumbles of thunder and lots of lightning within the next few minutes, because these storms are starting to make their way into the NewsLink Indiana viewing area. But like I said, that severe thunderstorm warning is in effect for the west side of our viewing area, about to make its way into east central Indiana. Now, as I take it a little bit farther and pause it, you'll see where this heavy rain currently is right now, over by Kokomo and into the Indianapolis metro area, which includes Noblesville, Carmel, areas like that. So we know anyone down there, make sure to take precaution, because there are reports of power outages down in Indianapolis metro. So certainly keep an eye on that as we go throughout the next few hours, as these storms can change very quickly. Like I talked about earlier, you can go from no rain to lots of rain very quickly. So certainly keep an eye out, because this radar, like I said, can change constantly. Now let's track out that rain for you. At 9 a.m., that rain's going to start making its way into our area. Those heavier amounts of rain as we go throughout the morning. The heaviest rain is going to begin within the next half hour, and that's going to go until around 10 o'clock. So we'll keep our eye on that, and then as that rain moves out, we have a little bit of a reprieve as we go throughout the latter half of the morning. Here it is at 11 a.m., just some lighter showers. So a little bit of yellows there, but that's nothing compared to those oranges and reds and even dark reds. A second round of rain and thunderstorms will make their way through as we go into the afternoon hours after lunch. Here it is at 2 p.m. Not quite red, but still some orange in our eastern counties, including Winchester and here in Muncie. So definitely, even after that initial round of thunderstorms moves through and that tornado watch expires, we won't be done with the rain because that's going to continue throughout the afternoon. But once that rain moves through, it'll be done within the evening hour. So by dinner time, that rain will be starting to make its way really out of our viewing area before finally ending around 7, 8 o'clock and making for cloudy skies here at 10 p.m., which will be pretty calm compared to the morning we are experiencing here and certainly the weather to our north yesterday in the Chicago area and in northwest Indiana. Now, let's take a look at those temperatures because I talked about this previously because these temperatures, you can see the temperature gradient on this map. Right here in Muncie, it's 70, but where those storms have already started to make their way through in Lafayette, 59 degrees. But as we go further west, that temperature gradient, it changes quickly. 60 degrees in St. Louis, but if you head north to Peoria, north of where that cold front moved through, 41 degrees. So we have a big cool down on the way as a result of these storms, and our temperatures, they are going to drop down as we go throughout the day. So certainly right now is the warmest time of the day, and we're just going to start that decrease within the next hour or two as these storms make their way through. So that's going to be the biggest thing with this storm after the initial storms move through, is this temperature decrease. So definitely keep your eye on that as we go throughout the day. This is all associated with that severe weather threat I've talked about multiple times now. We are in that slight risk, which is 2 out of 5 on the severe weather scale, including most of our viewing area, including Muncie and Richmond. Marion and Gas City are in that level 1 out of 5, but just because you're in the lower risk level and not one of the high risk levels, it doesn't mean you should ignore any severe weather chances, because certainly we're experiencing these stronger storms with a slight risk right now, the severe thunderstorm warnings to our west. The main threat today, like I talked about, are those wind gusts. So let's take a look at this here. 15% chance of damaging winds in Muncie, and as you head farther west, just a 5% chance. But where the storms will mainly set up today in Ohio, 30% chance of damaging winds. So that are winds up to 70 miles per hour. So that can easily take limbs off trees, knock trees over, and overall just cause some difficult times, especially if it's raining, because you could get some sideways rain with that and just be totally blinding. You could have an umbrella, and the umbrella is going to be useless because the wind is just going to be so strong. So definitely be paying attention to those wind gusts and rainfall as we go throughout the day. Now let's take another look at what these severe categories mean, because it can be confusing for some people. So this level 2 out of 5, scattered severe storms are really possible. Wind damage, 1 or 2 tornadoes are possible, so that is why we are experiencing where we are in this tornado watch right now, again, until noon. And some tornado safety tips I have for you. I talked about this earlier, but it doesn't hurt to revisit them. Go to the lowest level or most interior room of your home. Typically a bathroom, closet, or pantry will be good for this. So make sure you are just somewhere away from windows in case there is a tornado. Stay away from trees and power lines, because trees will fall over, and power lines, if they fall over, if they fall in standing water, it can become electrified and just create a dangerous situation. Definitely don't go underneath an overpass, because the wind, it can just funnel through that overpass and create even stronger winds. So that is one of the worst places to be. Contrary to popular belief, you do not want to be underneath an overpass. And definitely shelter in place until the tornado warning has passed and the threat has passed, because once we get past that, then you can go outside. But while that tornado warning is in place, definitely stay indoors. It doesn't hurt to stay inside and watch the storms from inside your house versus outside the house, or even worse, on the road.
Yes, please do not do the Midwest stereotype of standing out on your porch and watching that storm roll in. It is not worth it, I promise.
No, I know we see it all the time. It's like, oh, the Midwestern dad just goes on the porch, which it can be fun, but you need to take precaution, especially if you have winds up to 70 miles per hour. The rain, it could just be like blowing onto your porch. You could get that hail threat, which could cause some issues to your roofing.
Yes, and like Orion showed us, those hail balls from last night were they were golf ball, softball. What would you describe it as?
The hail, the biggest hail from yesterday, a NewsLink alum measured a hailstone of 5 inches in diameter, which is the size of a DVD.
Whoa.
There was a lot of hail yesterday that was baseball-sized hail, 3 inches in diameter, softball-sized hail. It was just incredibly large hail with these super strong storms.
Yes, it could be really scary for damages, and I know we're really worried here about it, but thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah, of course.
That's right. There's some powerful storms coming our way, and it's smart to be prepared with a plan. I know here in the newsroom we have our computers on standby to assist us in the case of any damages because, like Joe said, the heaviest rain is going to be moving in the next 30 minutes. Yesterday's storms produced plenty of damage, and Orion is back to take a look at what those storm damages reports look like. Orion?
Thank you, Brooke. So the SPC released storm reports for yesterday. Now we see that there, on red here, we see tornado reports. There were 16 in total so far that they can confirm. Now there were a few here in Texas, but you can see the majority of them were here up in northern Illinois and Indiana. That area, just from one cell, developed so many different tornadoes and so much different damage. Now there was touchdown in Pontiac for a brief moment that brought up a little bit of debris but didn't completely condense on the ground. And then in Texas, you see that there was a tornado on the ground just southeast of Potosi, Texas. And then in Kankakee, Illinois, at about 7:24 p.m., there was reports of a tornado touchdown near I-57 and Justice Way. Now that was estimated by a radar that time that dropped. Now there was another report in Kankakee where the state police reported a tornado on the ground that was visible from near Indiana 10 and 600 West Road. There was a spotter that spotted a tornado 5 miles east of Wheatfield that reported a tornado on the ground just east of that. In Stark, Indiana, there was a spotter had a photo of the tornado as it entered Stark County, just north and west of San Pierre, Indiana. Now that was estimated by the radar. The time was because there was a delayed report. Now there was a observed tornado by a spotter in a video in Stark, Indiana at about 9:27. And there was another one in Stark, Indiana, where the spotter said there was damage to numerous trees in this area. And another one in Stark said that there were healthy 1-foot diameter trees that were uprooted and some of them snapped off at the top. Now that is very consistent with extremely strong winds and other tornado-like things. Another one in Stark, Indiana, another tornado observed, damage between East 200 South and East 50 South, large diameter trees that were downed from those winds. There was a tornado picture from a spotter sent in from the west-northwest in Stark, Indiana as well, and two more from Stark, Indiana. There was barn debris found on Route 8 northwest of Knox. Now I remember that storm that moved through just north of Knox in that darkness, that big wedge that caused a lot of damage. You see that there was a barn that was destroyed. And then another one in Stark, it corrected the previous thunderstorm warning damage report from the tornado and the report of a barn destroyed with the debris on Route 8 just west of Stark County Airport. Now back to you at the desk.
Thank you, Orion. A community in southern Michigan is trying to recover after powerful tornadoes killed 4 people and left a lot of damage. Through the weekend, Union City High School had been used as a resource center, but this week classes are resuming, and students, teachers, and staff who experienced tornadoes' devastating impact are getting a helping hand from a man's best friend. Faraz Javid has 4.
Buddy.
Not even a year-old Duke is Union City Community School's newest therapy dog.
Sometimes it's easier to communicate with an animal than talk to the person in the room.
School counselor Ashley Seckler says, ironically, the lab was brought in a week ago, and he will be put to work when nearly 300 students and staff return after this past Friday's tragedy.
Starting out with just supporting staff, supporting bus drivers, to kitchen staff, to all of our employees, and then we'll likely go on and do some debriefing sessions with all of our students and kind of see what their needs are.
4 people killed and a dozen injured after powerful tornadoes ripped across several counties in southwest Michigan. As per the National Weather Service, an EF3 tornado touched down in Union City with wind speeds of up to 150 miles per hour.
The trailers were destroyed, debris in ponds.
There were people
people just coming out of their homes in shock, obviously, of what had just happened.
Within hours of Friday's tornado, Jennifer Gauci and her 17-year-old daughter Allison were helping people on Tuttle Road, one of the hardest hit stretches in the village.
At one point, they're just working to cut a tree off the road, and I see this family just looking at their destroyed home. It just hugged one of the ladies.
Sometimes just the best thing to do is to be there. You don't have to say anything, but just to show that they're not alone.
But this community carries more than one storm's worth of grief.
2 years ago, the community also experienced another tornado in Sherwood. As a counselor, what are you going to be looking out for?
I would imagine we're going to have a lot of students that are coming in with some of that previous trauma. It's probably triggering for a lot of them.
Duke, any words of advice?
How are you going to remember this tragedy?
It's the biggest destructive hit that I've seen close up in my life.
I hope that we remember Mother Nature is an incredible force when she wants to be, but community is stronger.
As these storms are making their way through our area, I'm tracking the impacts. Find out more after the break.
After his wife passed, my neighbor Larry started drinking a lot. He was in distress and acting out. He had guns around, and I didn't want anything bad to happen. I pressed pause. Our local authorities filed a firearm restraining order to temporarily remove the guns. It gave Larry the time he needed to get help. It wasn't easy, but we got through it together. Learn more at illinois.gov/pause to heal.
Emma, did you hear?
Todd's in the hospital.
Who's Todd? He got a collapsed lung from vaping. He thought it was cool.
Not cool.
Promise you won't vape, Emma. It can lead to a lifelong addiction, and we can't be friends if your lungs collapse.
Bogus.
Wacky sitcom teens aren't the best people to talk to your kid about vaping.
Hey, you got a minute?
You are. Start the conversation with your child about vaping today.
Be right there. Wait. Use the shovel and bucket of water, remember? Drown, stir, drown, feel. Then make sure it's cool.
Where'd you learn that?
SmokeyBear.com. Brushed up on some tips before we left. Don't want to start a wildfire, right?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Welcome back. We are tracking that severe storm coverage in about 8 counties around our viewing area. Do you guys have any insight or any updates for us?
So those severe thunderstorm warnings, they are making their way closer to our viewing area. They're not in our viewing area yet, but they are certainly on the way.
Yeah, they definitely are, and they're coming fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as we take a look at Cooper Science Skycam right now, again, those clouds, they are making their way into our area as they're just completely blanketing the Ball State campus. But daylight firmly in place, so that is some good news because storms in the daytime are much better than storms in the nighttime because we can see what is going on. But again, that tornado watch, it is in effect until noon today. It's going to be a pretty tricky situation. Right now, there are no tornado warnings in effect, so that is some good news in place here. But again, that tornado watch in effect till noon. So wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour. Hail can be up to an inch or even greater than that, and then cannot forget the main thing, the tornado threat. So that rain, let's take a look at that radar. Lots of rain into Indiana right now, firmly getting into the Indianapolis viewing area. But some good news as we see here on radar is some of those darker shades of red, they are starting to go away a little bit. So it looks like that rain could be stabilizing a little bit and becoming less intense as it progresses throughout the state of Indiana. But again, just because it's not a shade of dark red doesn't mean you can ignore it. These shades of orange are still heavy downpours and can easily limit visibility as we go throughout the morning, especially as you are traveling to work or taking the kids to school, because again, with a lot of cars on the road, especially during rush hour, you want to take precaution if you are in traffic. So let's take a closer look at our viewing area where that tornado watch is still in effect for our entire viewing area. That severe thunderstorm warning that I talked about earlier is in effect for the west part to west of our viewing area, but that rain, like I said, it's slowing down a little bit, which is good news. So we're going to hope that that rain stays away and stays a little less severe as we go throughout the morning into our area. But again, like I said, that rain is going to be pushing into our area within the next half hour or so. So we're definitely going to be seeing some lightning and thunder as we go throughout the morning. As I pause that radar, you'll see lots of brighter colors, lots of yellows and oranges about to make their way into our viewing area, starting to make its way into the northern part of our viewing area in Grant County, which includes Marion and Gas City and I-69. So if you are on those highways, be careful, leave lots of space between you and the car in front of you, because roads could be slick, things could become dangerous very quickly, especially with limited visibility. Your windshield wipers can only do so much. So I talked about some of those radar terms earlier, so I'm just going to show those off, and let's see what we're looking at here. So this is called velocity, and this is a radar. It measures wind direction. So typically when we have tornadoes on the ground, if you see red and green next to each other, and it's like very small, that typically is a sign of a tornado. Luckily, we don't have any signs of that right now. We're just seeing green and red in big spots, so no tornadoes on the ground right now. And this is correlation coefficient, which I talked about earlier about those tornadoes yesterday, which measures debris in the air. There is no signs of debris in the air yet either, but again, if there were to be a tornado on the ground, the main radar, velocity, and these correlation coefficient, these are our three main things we use to track tornadoes on the ground. So if we were to have a tornado, we'd be rotating between those three. So that's a little fun fact if you've ever seen tornado coverage before and you don't know what some of those tools really are. But let's track out the rest of that rain, because it's going to be pretty rainy as we go throughout the day. Here it is at 9 a.m. within the next hour. Lots of rain in our area. Those heavy downpours are going to be in effect, so definitely take precaution on that, especially if you are traveling anywhere, like I said, because it rain heavy, and with those heavy winds, it could be blinding, especially to your car. So certainly be careful if you are on the roads. That heavy rain is going to start to make its way out as we go throughout the morning to just some lighter rain showers. Here it is at 11 a.m. as you might be starting to head out to lunch. So here's a brief reprieve if you want to take a lunch break and avoid some of the main rain. So just those greens and yellows throughout the viewing area, but that won't stay like that for too long, because some heavier rain will make its way into our viewing area for a second time. Not as strong as this first round of storms, but still nothing to scoff at, because you see some oranges throughout our area, including Winchester, and those reds down to our south in Richmond and Wayne County. Now that rain is going to make its way out by late afternoon into the dinner time hours around 7, 8 o'clock and make for cloudy skies throughout the evening. The main story, once all this rain moves through, are those temperatures, and you can see that temperature gradient as we look at currents. 38 degrees up in Chicago, and that's not just the Lake Michigan breeze. That's truly this cold air starting to make its way into the Midwest, and it's going to displace this warm air pretty quickly once this rain moves through. 69 in Muncie, 71 in Indianapolis, but again, look at that gradient. It goes from green to blue very quickly. So keep those light jackets handy as we go into the evening, because lows, they are going to dip down into light jacket territory. I'll talk about this again. This is all part of that slight risk that we are tracking, not as intense as that moderate risk that Northwest Indiana and Illinois experienced yesterday, but still nothing to sneer at. Just a 2 out of 5 on the severe weather scale. So that can mean winds up to 60 miles per hour, hail up to 1 inch in diameter, and of course, you cannot rule out a tornado or two. And as I zoom in into our area, you'll see that most of our viewing area is in that slight risk. Now, the main threat for today, besides the heavy rain and the possibility of a tornado, are those winds. 15% chance of damaging winds in Muncie. And then as we go south into the southern portion of our viewing area, which includes Richmond, that is a 30% chance of damaging winds. So that can be winds up to 70 miles per hour and easily take limbs off of trees and cause debris to be in the area, and easily just cause issues, especially like I said with that rain. It could take rain from just falling vertically to to making it horizontal right at you very quickly. So certainly if you are on the road, like I keep saying, take precaution because the wind can be battering on your car while it's just downpouring. So be careful about that, especially if there's hail included as well. Overall, it's just best to stay inside today and just take an indoor day, especially if you're at work. Maybe today is not the day to drive a half hour to go get your lunch. But again, these risk categories are 2 out of 5 of those scattered severe storms are possible, which we are experiencing right now. Some wind damage will be included, and then you cannot rule out 1 or 2 tornadoes as well. But I'm going to toss it back to Orion and Brooke for any new details on these storms.
Thank you so much, Joe. I know I can attest to you, we're feeling that mugginess yesterday, even with it moving in, that I don't know what you categorize that as, you know, the feeling in the air that I could feel the water particles if I went like this, I feel like.
Yeah, walking inside from being outside, you get super cold, you go back outside and it's just miserable. You're just hot and it's bad.
Yeah, Joe made a good point. Don't even bother doing your hair today. I can also attest to that. I would not suggest it. My hair poofed up like I'm Hagrid from Harry Potter.
Yeah, I luckily don't have that problem very much, so.
Thank you so much, Orion and Joe. If you stay with us after the break, we'll have one final look at our weather.
Everyone has a ritual, that small thing we do to keep us focused.
But what do you do to keep your head in the game?
To drown out the self-doubt and support your mental health.
Because being your best isn't just about taking care of your body.
It's about taking care of your mind and mental health. Find the resources you need to keep your mental health a priority.
Love your mind.
Here's the deal. We gotta set ourselves up. See, retirement is the long game. We can't play about our future or our finances. Make moves, set up goals. Don't worry about a setback. Just save up, stack up to reach them. Let's put ourselves in the right position. Pre-game to greater things. This is Pretirement.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depressing stuff. You all right?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
I don't think that many kids in my son's school even do it.
He makes fun of his friend who vapes.
He would never try it.
She's into soccer.
She's on the honor roll.
She's just not the type.
No way.
No way.
No way.
No way, my kid would never vape.
Get your head out of the cloud. Today, nearly 8,000 kids will start vaping. Maybe even yours. Learn about the dangers at talkaboutvaping.org.
Welcome back. These storms are now starting to make their way into our viewing area, and we can sometimes even hear the rain on the windows here in the studio.
Yeah, I know. We've been kind of watching it move in, move out. I've been hearing on the windows, and it's silent. A little eerie, but I don't mind.
Yeah, I accidentally left my window open last night, so I woke up to the sound of rain. Luckily, it wasn't coming in my room, but it was definitely really loud. I think that's what woke me up this morning.
Okay, car window or dorm room window?
Dorm room window.
Okay,
Luckily,
that's a little bit better because those don't really open too much, but
Yeah.
still, Orion, what are you doing?
I forgot it.
It's a natural alarm clock. I guess
know,
it's kind of a
it was
life
great.
hack if you guys need it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you needed to be here, so leave that window open to hear any kind of rain.
I had to look out for the storms, just in case.
Oh, definitely. But speaking of those storms, let's take a look right now at that tornado watch. Again, in place until noon today. We're expecting those heavy winds, rain, and hail. And those tornadoes, there's still nothing on radar right now, which is good news, as that rain is starting to de-intensify as we go throughout this morning. But they are making their way into our viewing area now, and we'll take a look at that. That rain's really moving into Indiana, almost covering the entire southwest portion of the state. But like I said earlier, if you take a look, you see those darker reds when they're in Illinois, but as they track into Indiana, you don't really see that much dark red anymore, so that rain is definitely calming down a little bit, which is good news. Still nothing to ignore, but overall it is calming down, which is a positive sign that perhaps the things as they make into our area might not be as terrible as some people might think. So overall, the rain still on the heavier side, but not quite as bad as it was an hour ago in Illinois. Taking a closer look into our viewing area, that severe thunderstorm warning, the first one in our area has been issued. Here it is in Madison County, including Anderson, and starting to make its way into Delaware County, which includes Muncie. So this storm is strong. It's going to be making its way into our viewing area with those heavier rain. But again, no tornado warnings, which is good. But this severe thunderstorm warning is going to be in effect in our viewing area for the next half hour or so. So definitely stay indoors. It has that hail threat up to an inch and wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. And that rain, like we've talked about throughout the show, it can go from nothing to everything very quickly. So if you walk outside and you say, there's no rain out here right now, it could be raining and downpouring within 10 seconds. So certainly keep an eye on that as we go throughout the morning as the severe thunderstorm warning is making its way into our area. And overall, just all this rain in general that we've been previewing for the past hour now starting to make its way into our area. And you'll see lots of thunder and lightning as it continues into the NewsLink, Indiana area with those wind gusts, like I said, and those hail chances, and definitely those heavy downpours. Remember, if your streets are flooded, turn around, don't drown. It's better to avoid those floodwaters and to try and drive through them, especially in areas with poor drainage, because this rainfall amounts could be piling up so quickly that it could easily flood. And here is the radar paused. There's that severe thunderstorm warning in Madison County, and that heavier rain is starting to make its way into the viewing area. You'll see bits of red here and there. That is those really heavy rainfall amounts. It's looking like the heaviest rain is going to be in the northern half of Madison County. So Anderson might not get the worst of the rain, but overall still just going to be heavy rain regardless as we go throughout the day. Velocity showing nothing right now. Correlation coefficient, nothing to be concerned about either. So good news there. We're not looking at any tornado chances right now, because usually some severe thunderstorm warnings, they have something that's called tornado tag on them, which means a tornado could be possible inside that severe thunderstorm, and that is not the case. There is no tag on this one. So that is good news, but we'll keep you updated on that. Precision cast shows that heavy rain now in our area. It's going to be making its way through within the next hour, so lots of thunder and lightning between 8 and 9 o'clock as we go throughout the day. That rain's going to be making its way out by 11 o'clock with just these lighter showers, green and yellow throughout much of the area. And that's that reprieve to go outside and maybe get some lunch, because that is going to be our best chance of the afternoon to not see any storms, because the heavy rain will return for the second half of the afternoon into the later hours. Here it is at 2 p.m. You'll see those yellows and oranges throughout much of the area, and those reds again in Richmond, Indiana. So certainly something to keep an eye on as we go throughout the day. But that rain is going to continue throughout the afternoon and into the dinner hours. But once we hit 7, 8 o'clock, that rain is going to make its way out, and things will calm down finally after all of this, all these storms throughout the day. Cloudy conditions will settle in for tonight at 10 p.m. But like I said earlier, the temperatures, they are not going to be comfortable like they have been for the past couple of days, especially if you're not a fan of when temperatures dip below 40 degrees, because we're going to be getting down to around that point tonight. As you can see, that temperature gradient is very steep across Illinois right now as that rain is making its way across the Midwest, associated with this low pressure system that is right now centered over Lake Michigan and northwest Indiana. So those temperatures are going to continue to drop as we go throughout the next few hours. And for one last time, that's also associated with that slight risk of severe weather, which is 2 out of 5 on that severe weather scale. So we'll certainly have the chances of that heavy rain, heavy wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour, and that hail and a possible tornado or two as well in there. Again, nothing on radar right now, which is a good sign. We've been tracking this for the past couple hours, and we have that watch in place, but there are no warnings right now, which is some good news. But the main threat are those winds, especially when you pair that with heavy rainfall. It can become blinding very quickly. We're in that 15% chance of damaging winds, with the southern half of our viewing area in that 30% chance of damaging winds as we go throughout the day. And you'll see that here, especially as it moves into Ohio, that is where that rain is really going to take hold. But as we come to the conclusion of our coverage, we will keep you updated in case anything else happens. We'll be posting on NewsLink Indiana's weather socials and keeping you informed in case things go downhill.
That is correct. Like we said earlier, it's always best to have a plan, have a safety plan, be prepared, and make sure that you are following proper precautions to make sure that you and your loved ones stay safe.
Yes, definitely. And like I said, keep following our social media, because as we end our coverage right now, if we do have a tornado warning in place, we will come back and cover that wall to wall for you. We'll be ready to handle that. But definitely keep an eye on your socials. Have your alerts ready in case anything does happen, in case these severe thunderstorms do pick up and get into our entire viewing area. And overall, just keep an eye on the weather as we go throughout the morning.
And Joe, as you said turn around, don't drown. And now thanks to you, Joe, now we know.
Yep.
And thank you guys for watching as well. We want to thank you for joining us. And if you are not sick of NewsLink Indiana and you want to follow our coverage some more, you have 2 more opportunities today to watch us. Our midday broadcast will be at 11:30 a.m. this morning, and be sure to tune in tonight at 9, streaming live on the NewsLink Indiana Facebook page, YouTube channel, and WCRD 91.3.
And for news anytime, anywhere, just go to cardinalmediabsu.com. Have a great night and stay safe.